I want to start by saying this isn't about grand gestures or perfect stories. This is about something much rarer than that. Something most people spend their whole lives brushing past without ever realizing what they missed. This is about a kind of love that doesn't shout to be seen. It doesn't beg for attention. It just shows up consistently, silently, courageously. We live in a world where love is often treated like a transaction. What can you give me? What do I get in return? How fast can it make me feel something? But the love I'm talking about today doesn't rush. It doesn't perform. It stays, even when staying is hard. Even when walking away would be easier. This love is rare because it asks for presence, not perfection. It asks for honesty when silence feels safer. It asks for patience in a time that rewards distraction. And most of all, it asks for courage, the courage to choose one heart again and again. Even when no one is watching, if you've ever felt this kind of love, you know it. It changes how you move through the world. And if you haven't yet, this isn't a speech meant to make you feel behind. It's here to remind you that something real still exists, and that it's worth protecting when you find it. This love is rare, and that's exactly why it matters that this love is rare, because it doesn't try to impress anyone. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't raise its voice to prove it exists. It doesn't perform kindness only when someone is watching. It shows up quietly, almost unnoticed at first, like something familiar you didn't realize you'd been missing until it was there. This kind of love doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives with presence. With someone staying when the moment is ordinary. With someone listening when the story isn't dramatic. With someone choosing to be there, not because it feels exciting, but because it feels right. Most people confuse love with intensity. They think love is supposed to be loud, overwhelming, consuming. They think if it doesn't knock you off your feet, it must not be real. But rare love doesn't knock you down, it steadies you. It doesn't leave you dizzy. It helps you breathe. It doesn't demand your energy, it protects it. This love understands that real connection isn't built in emotional spikes, but in emotional safety. Rare love is the kind that pays attention, not just when things are good, but when things are quiet. Especially when things are quiet. It notices the pauses between words. It notices the way silence can mean comfort instead of distance. It doesn't rush to fill every gap with noise or reassurance. It knows that sometimes the strongest thing you can offer another person is simply be there without trying to fix them. This love doesn't need constant validation. It doesn't ask, "Am I enough?" every time the mood shifts. It doesn't panic when there's space. It trusts. And trust is not blind optimism. Trust is built slowly, through repeated actions that say, "I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere just because things aren't perfect today." Rare love understands that people have bad days, bad weeks, sometimes bad versions of themselves, and instead of keeping score, it keeps showing up. Presence is a choice, and that's why this love is rare, because choosing presence means choosing responsibility. It means choosing to be emotionally available when it would be easier to disappear. It means choosing to listen when you're tired, choosing to stay curious instead of defensive, choosing to respond instead of react. Most people want the feeling of love, but not the discipline of it. They want the warmth, but not the patience. They want the connection, but not the consistency. Rare love knows that presence is not passive. It's active. It takes effort to remain open in a world that constantly teaches you to protect yourself. It takes courage to stay soft when you've been hurt before. This love doesn't pretend pain doesn't exist. It just refuses to let pain turn into cruelty. It refuses to let past wounds dictate future behavior. It says, "I've been hurt, but I won't use that as an excuse to hurt you." This kind of love isn't flashy because it's busy doing the work that doesn't get applause. It remembers the small things, the way you like your coffee, the tone of your voice, when something's wrong, the difference between when you need advice and when you just need someone to sit beside you. It understands that love isn't proven through big promises, but through small, reliable actions repeated over time. Rare love doesn't weaponize vulnerability. When you open up, it doesn't store your truths for later use in an argument. It treats your softness like something sacred, not something to exploit. It understands that trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild, and it respects that responsibility. It knows that being present means being careful with someone's heart, even during conflict. This love doesn't disappear when things get uncomfortable. It doesn't shut down when emotions get heavy. It doesn't retreat into silence as punishment. It stays engaged. It asks questions instead of making assumptions. It seeks understanding instead of control. It doesn't need to win every conversation. It would rather protect the connection than protect its ego. Rare love is calm, not boring. Calm There's a difference. Calm doesn't mean lack of passion. It means passion without chaos. It means depth without drama. It means connection without fear. When you're with this kind of love, you don't feel like you're walking on glass. You don't feel like one wrong move will make everything fall apart. You feel grounded, seen, safe enough to be honest. This love allows you to be human. It doesn't expect perfection. It expects effort. It doesn't demand constant happiness. It makes room for sadness, confusion, growth. It understands that people evolve, and instead of resisting change, it grows alongside it. Presence means staying connected not just to who someone is today, but to who they're becoming. Rare love doesn't rush intimacy. It lets closeness build naturally. It doesn't force timelines or milestones just to feel secure. It knows that real bonds aren't fragile. They don't need to be tested or accelerated. They need to be nurtured slowly, gently. Honestly, this love doesn't confuse attention with care. It doesn't mistake jealousy for passion. It doesn't control, monitor, or restrict in the name of affection. It trusts that love should expand your world, not shrink it. Presence doesn't mean possession. It means partnership. Standing beside someone, not over them. Rare love shows up in moments no one posts about. In late night conversations that don't have a punchline. In shared routines. In quiet support. In the way someone checks in without being asked. In the way they remember something you said weeks ago and bring it back when you least expect it. These moments don't look impressive from the outside, but they build something unbreakable on the inside. This love isn't afraid of depth. It doesn't skim the surface of connection. It wants to know how you think, not just how you look. It wants to understand your fears, not just your strengths. It's interested in your inner world, even the parts you don't fully understand yourself. Presence me. Being willing to sit with complexity instead of demanding. Simplicity. Real love doesn't run from accountability. When it hurts you, it acknowledges it. It doesn't minimize your feelings or explain them away. It listens. It reflects. It adjusts. Presence includes responsibility. It includes the willingness to say, I didn't get it right, but I want to do better. That humility is rare. That humility is love. This love doesn't compete with you. It doesn't feel threatened by your growth. It celebrates your wins without feeling smaller. It supports your independence without fearing abandonment. Presence doesn't mean dependence. It means mutual respect. Two whole people choosing each other, not because they need to be completed, but because they want to be connected. Rare love is patient with timing. It understands that not everything unfolds at once. It doesn't pressure emotions to arrive before they're ready. It allows space for trust to form organically. Presence means letting things develop without forcing outcomes, without clinging to certainty. This love understands that sometimes showing up looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like space. Sometimes it looks like waiting. It doesn't panic when things slow down. It doesn't equate stillness with loss. It knows that deep connections don't disappear just because they're not constantly stimulated. Real love doesn't chase validation from others. It doesn't need to prove itself through public displays. It's content being real. In private, it values authenticity over appearance. Presence means choosing honesty even when no one else will ever see it. This love doesn't drain you. It restores you. After spending time with it, you don't feel confused or anxious or depleted. You feel clearer, stronger, more yourself. Presence has that effect. It doesn't take pieces of you. It gives you permission to exist fully. Real love doesn't promise forever lightly. It understands the weight of words. It lets actions speak first. It builds something solid before calling it anything grand. Presence means understanding that commitment is not a declaration, it's a daily practice. This love respects boundaries. It doesn't interpret limits as rejection. It sees them as self-respect. It honors them. Presence includes knowing when to step closer and when to give space. With taking either personally, rare love doesn't keep you guessing. It's not hot and cold. It's not inconsistent. It doesn't disappear and reappear to keep things interesting. It understands that stability is not boring, it's secure. Presence means reliability. Being someone another person can count on emotionally and mentally. This love understands that life is not always poetic. Some days are messy, some days are dull, some days are heavy, and it stays anyway. It doesn't need every moment to feel magical. It finds meaning in continuity. Real love doesn't confuse sacrifice with self-erasure. It doesn't ask you to lose yourself to be loved. It wants you whole. Presence means loving someone as they are, not as a version you can control or reshape. This love is built in moments of choice. Choosing patience when frustration would be easier. Choosing kindness when ego wants to speak. Choosing understanding when assumptions are tempting. Over and over again. Quiet choices, invisible choices, but they add up. Real love knows that being present is not about perfection, it's about intention, about effort, about returning to the connection even after missteps. Presence means repair. It means not giving up at the first sign of difficulty. This love doesn't fade when novelty fades. It deepens. It becomes less about excitement and more about meaning, less about sparks and more about warmth. Presence transforms attraction into attachment, infatuation into commitment. Rare love doesn't fear vulnerability. It welcomes it. It creates an environment where honesty feels safe, where emotions aren't judged or dismissed. Presence means holding space without trying to control what shows up inside it. This love doesn't rush endings or conclusions. It stays open, it stays curious, it stays engaged in the ongoing process of knowing another human being, understanding that no one is ever fully finished, fully explained, fully predictable. This love is rare because it doesn't burn fast and disappear. It doesn't arrive like a storm and leave like silence. It doesn't rely on emotional highs to feel real. It understands something most people don't want to accept, that intensity is easy, but consistency is hard. Anyone can feel deeply for a moment. Anyone can be passionate when emotions are loud. But staying steady, especially when things are ordinary, when feelings are calm, when there's no rush of adrenaline, that's where real love lives. Most people are addicted to intensity. They chase the spark, the thrill, the rush of being wanted right now. They mistake anxiety for passion. They confuse unpredictability with excitement. They think love has to hurt a little to be real, but rare love doesn't keep you guessing. It doesn't keep you on edge. It doesn't make you wonder where you stand. It makes you feel grounded, secure, certain. Consistency isn't flashy. It doesn't create dramatic stories. It doesn't look exciting from the outside, but it builds something unshakable on the inside. This love shows up the same way on good days and bad ones. It doesn't disappear when the mood changes. It doesn't withdraw affection as punishment. It doesn't use distance to create desire. It stays emotionally available, even when staying requires effort. Rare love understands that feelings fluctuate, but commitment doesn't have to. It knows that love is not about how strongly you feel in a single moment, but about how reliably you show up over time. It's not about the peak experiences. It's about the pattern of care, the pattern of honesty, the pattern of choosing each other again and again without needing a dramatic reason. This love doesn't overwhelm you at the beginning just to vanish later. It doesn't promise everything before it knows anything. It lets connection grow naturally, without exaggeration, without pressure. It doesn't future fake to feel important. It doesn't rush intimacy to secure attachment. It respects time. It trusts time. Consistency means being emotionally present, even when there's nothing exciting happening, even when the conversation is simple, even when life feels repetitive. This love doesn't get bored with stability. It values it. It understands that peace is not the absence of passion, but the presence of trust. Rare love doesn't need constant reassurance because it provides it through action. You don't have to ask where you stand. You don't have to decode tone shifts. You don't have to analyze gaps in communication. Consistency answers those questions before they're asked. It says, I'm here. Not once, but continuously. This love doesn't come and go based on convenience. It doesn't prioritize you only when it's easy. It doesn't show up halfway. It doesn't disappear when life gets complicated. It understands that real connection requires reliability. Being someone another person can count on, not just emotionally, but energetically. Rare love doesn't create chaos to feel alive. It doesn't provoke jealousy to feel desired. It doesn't pull away to see if you'll chase. It doesn't test loyalty by withholding affection. It has nothing to prove. It's secure enough to stay consistent without fear of being taken for granted. Consistency doesn't mean routine without intention. It means choosing care every day, even when motivation is low. It means being kind when stress is high. It means communicating instead of withdrawing. It means staying engaged instead of shutting down. This love doesn't confuse emotional volatility with depth. It doesn't believe that arguments equal passion. It doesn't need conflict to feel connected. It prefers understanding over intensity, calm over chaos, stability over unpredictability. Rare love understands that strong emotions are not the same as strong bonds. Strong bonds are built through trust, and trust is built through consistency, through words matching actions, through promises being kept, through presence being reliable. This love doesn't disappear after the honeymoon phase. It doesn't lose interest when novelty fades. It deepens. It shifts from excitement to meaning, from attraction to attachment, from infatuation to respect. Consistency means staying curious about someone even after you know them well. It means continuing to listen, continuing to learn, continuing to care. It doesn't assume that closeness means ownership. It doesn't stop making effort just because comfort exists. Rare love doesn't chase emotional extremes. It doesn't need to feel euphoric all the time. It's okay with calm. It's okay with quiet. It understands that not every moment needs to feel intense to be valuable. This love doesn't play emotional games. It doesn't use silence as control. It doesn't use affection as leverage. It doesn't punish vulnerability. It doesn't reward insecurity. It stays emotionally stable, even when emotions are complex. Consistency means being the same person in private as in public. It means respect doesn't disappear behind closed doors. It means kindness doesn't depend on mood. It means care isn't conditional. Real love doesn't abandon connection at the first sign of difficulty. It doesn't leave when communication gets hard. It doesn't retreat when feelings get heavy. It stays long enough to understand, not just long enough to enjoy. This love understands that people have seasons. Some seasons are light, some are heavy, some are confusing. And consistency means staying present through all of them, not just the easy ones. Consistency doesn't mean never changing. It means growing without disappearing. It means evolving together instead of drifting apart. It means adapting without losing reliability. Rare love doesn't promise intensity forever. It promises effort. It promises honesty. It promises presence. It promises to try even when trying isn't easy. This love doesn't mistake obsession for devotion. It doesn't require constant attention to feel secure. It respects individuality. It supports independence. Consistency doesn't mean control. It means trust. Rare love doesn't rush to define itself with labels. It lets actions speak. It lets time reveal depth. It doesn't need dramatic declarations to feel real. Consistency is waking up and choosing the same person without needing a reason, choosing them when the day is dull, when the mood is low, when the excitement isn't immediate. This love doesn't exhaust you emotionally. It doesn't keep you on an emotional roller coaster. It doesn't leave you drained, confused, or anxious. It gives you peace. And peace is often misunderstood as boredom by those who are used to chaos. Real love doesn't fear stability. It doesn't equate calm with lack of passion. It understands that true passion can exist without emotional turbulence. Consistency means repair. It means coming back after disagreements. It means addressing issues instead of avoiding them. It means valuing the connection enough to protect it. This love doesn't rely on grand moments to survive. It survives on small, repeated acts of care, on checking in, on listening, on remembering, on following through. Rare love doesn't withdraw affection to gain power. It doesn't create distance to feel desired. It stays close emotionally and mentally without suffocating. Consistency means being predictable in the best way. Predictable kindness, predictable honesty, predictable support, knowing what to expect and feeling safe because of it. This love doesn't confuse longing with love. It doesn't believe absence makes the heart grow fonder. It believes presence builds connection stronger. Real love doesn't abandon communication when things feel uncomfortable. It leans into it. It understands that clarity is kinder than silence. Consistency means being emotionally mature enough to regulate your own feelings, instead of projecting them onto someone else. It means taking responsibility instead of reacting impulsively. This love doesn't thrive on emotional spikes. It thrives on emotional steadiness, on mutual respect, on shared values. Rare love doesn't leave you wondering if you matter. It doesn't make you compete for attention. It doesn't make you earn basic care. Consistency means love that doesn't fluctuate based on external validation. It doesn't change when circumstances change. It doesn't disappear under pressure. This love doesn't confuse chemistry with compatibility. It understands that attraction without consistency leads to instability. Real love stays intentional. It doesn't drift. It doesn't neglect. It doesn't assume connection will maintain itself. Consistency means being present even when you're tired, even when you're busy, even when you're stressed. Not perfectly, but intentionally. This love understands that reliability is romantic, that showing up is attractive, that emotional availability is powerful. Rare love doesn't need intensity to feel meaningful. It finds meaning in commitment, in continuity, in shared effort. Consistency doesn't mean stagnation. It means choosing growth without abandonment. This love isn't dramatic because it doesn't need to be. It's secure. It's steady. It's rooted. Rare love understands that the deepest connections are not built in moments of emotional fireworks, but in long stretches of mutual presence, respect, and reliability. Where love is not something you feel once in a while, but something you live every day.